Okay, so the idea of this session, what I'm trying to, my intention is that you have got to know the IP address, that is the IP address of this particular cloud service, and you know that having deployed two instances give you an understanding that internally these virtual machines will be inside some other network and they may have completely different IP address, but this single IP address, which is a public IP address, will get mapped, to your cloud application. So that is what was the idea of the last session that we try to understand. In this particular session, I will try to demonstrate with respect to some code that we would actually do a little bit of coding just to make you understand a little bit of how this requests are being sent. Initially it goes to that public IP address, and to actually show you a demonstration with respect to whether how it is being getting received at the end, that is at the end of the particular virtual machine, how it ends up in one specific instance of a virtual machine is what we will try to understand. So you should always keep it in mind that there is no guarantee that whenever certain person requests the URL azuredemobits.cloudapp.com, it will just go and get itself, the request will go to a single instance always. No, it cannot be. It can go either to instance 0 or to instance 1 if there are two, or if there are more, it can go to any one of the instances using some kind of a logic. So that logic is again dependent on the platform, and the platform decides which to which URL it goes. There is a specific algorithm. The algorithm may be as simple as round robin also. So this load balancer is what we are trying to understand. How does this particular load balancer is able to govern where the request has to be sent, because this particular algorithm is being governed by the load balancer. So we have switched over to Visual Studio. Remember, we have not done any coding as of now in Visual Studio. We will just try to add some code for the purpose of not writing a web application, but to give you a demonstration of some of the particular properties of cloud. The property that we are selecting is to determine where the request is going. That is, once you access one public URL called as azuredemobits.cloudapp.net, and it is getting mapped to that particular IP address, a single IP address, this particular request is either going to instance 0 or instance 1. So we actually open this in the web role. There is a file called as default.aspx, and we just open this particular file, and we actually switch from the source to the design view, if you have seen. And this page has some contents. We are not interested in whatever the default contents that are there as a part of this site. Let's just modify this content just to print out what we want. So I am going to select one the remaining piece of HTML. This is nothing but an HTML and ASP.NET kind of a code that we see here, which is a little bit mixed of ASP.NET and HTML. I'm just going to delete this particular stuff, and what I intend to do is, instead of this particular content, a single line of content which exists as a part of the HTML, I'm just going to add another label kind of a thing. A label is nothing but, in an HTML, label is nothing but you have some data and you just want to display some data which you may fetch from a backend like a SQL Server or something, and you will just display it. Or if you just want to type name and give a text box called as name, that name place is nothing but a label. So I'm just dragging and dropping one particular label. Whatever text that I have kept either statically appears to be statically. So I'll just again switch over to this source view, and I will give it a unique ID, because what I intend to do is I need to access this particular element or this particular place where I need to fill it with something different. So I need a unique identifier. So I'm giving it as name role ID, and the text I'm making it appear as role ID. So whenever my application starts, it will show role ID, role space ID. But once I fill in, once I want to change, I will use role capital I capital D, get access to that, and if I assign something to that, the content of that is going to get changed. I'm just informing you this because some of you may not have done any application development or ASP.NET application development. Just the idea, you just have to get to know that I am fetching some information from the backend and I just want to put it in the web page is what my intention is. Nothing more than that. So in order to get backend information, I mean Azure platform information, there is one particular library that is already made available called as Microsoft.Windows Azure.Service Runtime. It is at a runtime information is what I'm looking for. So the idea of writing the code using C# is using Microsoft.Windows Azure.Service Runtime. Then I will be able to access one particular class and its functions. So the class that I'm interested is in role environment. I'm creating a string variable called as role ID, doing role environment dot current role dot instance, which is already available, and dot id. I am interested to get the id, that is either the id is 0 because it's instance 0 and the id is 1 because the instance is 1. So what I am doing now is I am just setting role id, which is the field in my HTML page, default.aspx page dot text. It has a property called as dot text, and I am setting the string role id which I have fetched. So now which now displays it as role space id is going to fetch the role id during the page load. That is, whenever the first page will get loaded, when you type in Azure demo bits.cloudapp.net, the initial page default.aspx is the initial page which gets loaded. Once it gets loaded, it will try to populate or fetch this particular instance ID and just display it on the page. That is the intention of this particular application, to make you understand how these requests are being sent to different instances. So now that we have this is this small amount of coding that we have done for our purpose, and there is nothing else that we are going to do with writing an application or something like that. It is just simple code as something like this. And our next step is nothing but just to go ahead and publish this application, just like how we published in our last exercise. So right click and just say publish. It's the same place that we are publishing, so don't have to worry about anything. Since we have published, it will come to this dialog. Just click publish and it will go about publishing this modified application. This is the same application. It is having 2 instances, just that a little bit is changed. Now it is asking you whether there is already an application, should it replace? Yes, we have said yes. The existing application which is being deployed in that particular place, please replace it, is what we have said by confirming. So again, this modified application is now being published to that particular cloud service, and the kind of status is being shown now is pending. So if you go to that particular portal, you will be able to see that again, when it is publishing, you will be able to see the deployment is transitioning. It means the newer code is now getting published. So now you have a understanding that whenever a code change happens, this is how it is going to get, new code is going to get published. There was a previous code which was there, which was giving you some functionality. You have actually trying to update the functionality, and this is how it is going to happen. Now if you go and switch to instances, now you can see that it is happening one by one. One instance got updated, followed by the second instances. Both the instances did not get updated at the same time. So the older application was always accessible, and once both the instances have got updated, the new applications are running on both. So when one is getting updated, you will still be able to access the old application from the other instance. Once the one instance update is over, it will go and update the second instance. At that time, the first instance which already got updated, which continue to serve the request and will be able to give you the new application. So remember, both the instances do not get updated at the same time. So now the publishing is over. Let's try to browse this particular application using the same URL. We know the names of these instances. This is webrole1 underscore in underscore 0 will be first instance, and webrole2 underscore in underscore 0 will be the second instance, is what we have created when creating this particular application. So since we are doing it 2 instances, the role count gets increased as 0, 1, 2 gets appended to webrole1 that particular string. So now 2 instances are being ready, and now let's just start publishing this particular application. So we type azure demo bits.cloudapp.net, and see, we have modified the code to reflect that. Now the request, it is saying that this particular string which is appearing, which is saying that the request which was made when you typed azure demo bits.cloudapp.net went to the instance 0. So that's what we were trying to understand. Okay, when there are more than one instance, where does it go? Does it go to, because the load balancer is governing where this particular request is ending up on which particular virtual machine. So our application is just trying to print out to give us an understanding where did the request go. So I will try to refresh this page again, reload this page again and again and again by pressing F5, so that the request again is being sent to azure demo bits.cloudapp.net. Again it is being sent to, and we will just check if this value changes. So first time it went to 0, and second time we don't know where will it go, third time we don't know where will it go, fourth time we don't know where will it go. So let us just refresh this page. Where refreshing the page gives it actually sends the request again. So we are triggering this particular sending of request by refreshing the page. So let's refresh it again, and let's try to understand what does it what we get to learn out of this particular experiment of doing refresh. Okay, so refresh, and it is refreshing now. You have seen that the page is getting refreshed. Okay, it again went to 0. Let's refresh again. Okay, we see that second time it went to 0 instance again, that is the instance 0. The third time it went to instance 1. So that dynamically this is, whenever your application, you are trying to access this application, it can either send that request to 0 or 1. This is what we have demonstrated here. We are able to see this thing live. The application is already being deployed in the cloud, and we are able to to get a very good understanding by this small change in code, that where the requests are ending up on which virtual machine. And we are seeing that it is pretty much random that we are seeing, but yes, that definitely the load balancer will always have a logic of deciding whether this particular request has to go to the 0th instance or the first instance. So once you try this code, you just go ahead and start refreshing again and again, and you would see that it will start getting changed to 0 1 0 1 0 1. It may not happen immediately, 1 0 1 1 and another again. Alternatively this may not happen, but you will get to realize that yes, the requests are not going to the same place over and over again. And this is the most important thing, that we do not keep our data on the instances. We decouple the design of this our application. If there is any specific data like username, password, it is not being stored in instances. Remember, it is stored in database, because your request may go to any instances. That is not a specific can be determined that yes, your instances. So your username, password, if it is stored in instance 0, next time when you send the request, it may go to instance 1, where your username and password is not there, and it can tell you that yes, you are not a valid user altogether. So you have to remember the design of architectural software architecture design of PaaS. We are trying to decouple certain things, that we do not want to persist data on instances. Instead, whatever the data that we want to persist, we will keep it out of the application, that is either in a database or some other place, but definitely not where the application is running. So this is what we understand.